Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you need to develop into a better leader, this podcast is for you. If you want to achieve a greater level of success, this podcast is for you. His mentor, Dr. John C. Maxwell, said it best: everything rises and falls on leadership. We hope to inspire you today and provide you with an insight that has the potential to positively impact the trajectory of your life. Welcome to the Leadership and Success Podcast.
All right, everyone. I am very glad to be back on LinkedIn Live, and I have a very special guest today, Commander Jim Willsey, retired commander in the U.S. Navy Reserve. Very excited to see you, sir. How are you doing?
Doing great. And yeah, I assume
Outstanding.
you are as well.
Yes, and thank you so much for reaching out. I have so many mentors in the Navy. You're now one of them. I just got picked up for command. I had a lot of questions, and you've been a commanding officer twice now in the Navy Reserve. And thank you so much for all of the tips you have given me. Can you tell us more about your leadership journey, how you came to join the Navy and rise through the ranks?
Well, it started off that it was actually a recruiter in high school because I was taking a physics class, and they advertised the nuclear power, and I was wanting to I was trying to figure out what I was wanting to do with life, and it looked like, okay, well, it's something I can learn, a good skill, and then I have it's something I can use if whether I stayed in the Navy or whether I didn't stay in the Navy. So after that, I did enlist, delayed entry program, became a nuclear machinist mate, mechanic, and did that. And then I put in for officer programs. I had gotten through the training, got to the USS Enterprise, which was an aircraft carrier, and I was there for about 8 months. But I found out about 4 months into it that I got accepted for Navy ROTC. So I went to Navy ROTC at Tulane, then got commissioned, went through all the officer Navy nuke schools, went to USS Rhode Island, which was a submarine out of Kings Bay, Georgia. Then from there, taught Navy Nuclear Power School for 2 years. Then that's where I split from active duty. That was in 2004. I went to, at the time, Florida Power and Light to be a control room supervisor and get my what they call senior active operator license, so I could do it officially and legally, stay out of trouble. But essentially, turn lights on if you really boil it down. And then from there, I joined Navy Reserve as well. Literally, I left the day after I left active duty. In the reserve. Literally that quick of a transition. Had a unit out of Orlando. And then actually very early on, I was selected for lieutenant commander, but wouldn't even put it on yet. I got my first CO job. It kind of happened by surprise. They applied board. They said, would you take something not on your list? I said, sure. And then ended up with a security unit out of Gulfport, Mississippi. And I'm thinking, what have I gotten myself into here? And I'd had a little bit of it, kept falling into it too. I was also the physical security force protection officer because it was a ballistic missile submarine as well. So I had a little bit of experience there, but it was one of those things, and it turned out to be probably the funnest 2 years I had in the reserve, quite frankly. We did lots of really neat missions and stuff like that. And then got my second CO tour was it's out of Cincinnati, NOSC, or Navy Operational Support Center. But we drilled at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So had a good relationship with the Air Force. So we would do some projects for them. In return, they would let me have access to their big machine shops. So to do, we got to do some neat things. Now our gaining command was started to be the MUS Land. You got 2 submarine tenders still left, that and the Frank Cable. So long story short, you had a gaining command in Guam, and we provided lots of repair support. And on top of that, we created a guard shack that you could build, put a portable guard shack, literally no piece weighed more than 25 pounds. 2 people could put it together in about 30 minutes.
Wow.
So it was a neat thing neat cool stuff we had to do. Then from there, I went to was in a unit out of Tampa. It was where we went to Bahrain for duty. So I got to do 2 international mine countermeasures exercises. So I got to actually work. It's unclassified, so I got to work with about 40 different navies, literally sitting in the same room as me. So that was great experience. Learned a lot. Learned a lot.
Wow.
Culturally too. Just a simple fact that, like for example, I had a Pakistani Navy officer told me, "All right, we're our good allies with Saudis. Here's what you have to deal with." And
Wow.
he allowed me to get ahead of situations, ahead of time, and it worked out really well. So he gave me probably the best advice ever to handle that type of thing. And
Mm.
then my last year in the reserve, I got to facilitate senior officer leadership and advanced officer leadership courses, and that was, I guess, a chance to kind of impart what I've learned. But then again, on top of that, I probably learned just as much from each session that we facilitated than I taught. So the
Wow.
lesson, yeah,
That is
the
quite
lesson.
fascinating. Please go ahead.
So the lesson there is the leadership is a journey. You're going to keep learning more and more stuff. If you think you know it all, you don't. In fact, the more I learn about it, the more I realize I don't.
Yes, that is true. I think
Yeah.
that's Socrates said something similar to that. Really, really quite fascinating because to me, the US Navy, probably all of the branches of the military, we are really a leadership organization, right? We just happen to have a bunch of weapons. And
Right.
leadership was pretty important from day one. Even when you are the most junior person in the entire Navy, it's like they drill leadership into you. So, what was your experience like? What was your initial rank as enlisted, and why specifically did you want to join the Navy and serve in that capacity?
Well, with the enlisted, it was a thing where it was going to be. I saw it as a win either way. It's one of those things where I've had some family that had been military as well, so definitely wasn't opposed to it. Thought it was a good way to get a good start in life. And I figured if things worked out well, I'd stay, and if not, I had a good trade to do later. So I ended up kind of doing a hybrid when you think about it. I mean, I ended up retiring as reserve, and it was a great experience. But what I did was, I got is really has segued into a good civilian career because that's what I still do now. In fact, I just finished getting another license in Mississippi to run that plant. So that was a lot of work, but it's been a very good career. I started out as an E3, so it'd be or actually fireman in my case, but and then made it to petty officer second class, and then from there is when I got the opportunity to get the commission.
Wow, that is quite fascinating. And what was your motivation to go from enlisted to ensign, to go through the commission program?
What was that again?
Oh, what was your motivation to go from enlisted to officer? So I guess you are a true
Well,
Mustang.
yeah, well, actually, some people say I'm not just because I would have the ROTC time. And LDO is going to tell you that I'm not. I'm not a purebred, and I'm not a Mustang either. So I don't know what I am. But no,
Well, you
really, it
you
was
you are
just
a hero to me anyway. But yeah, that's
yeah,
that's quite fascinating.
yeah. It's fascinating. So when you talk to the warrant officers and LDOs, they don't claim me, but that's fine though. It's we have fun. We actually have fun with that, but no, probably the biggest reason I wanted to do that is I just felt like I could do a bigger role. I've always kind of ended up in leadership roles, even when I didn't seek it out when I was younger. It just kind of happened. It was almost like it would happen. I'd fall into the role, and it would kind of at that, and I just got used to doing that, and it felt natural to me. I don't know if it makes any sense to you, but it was just
Hmm.
a natural fit for me. In fact, people will tell me they're like, "Yeah, this." I couldn't imagine you doing other things. This is what you do.
Wow, that is quite something. And during the transition, right, from I think you said Petty Officer second class to ensign, was there any awkward moment with some of your former colleagues or even chiefs, people who used to outrank you, that you all of a sudden just jumped up on
Well,
the chain of command?
yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily it was awkward, but it was interesting. In fact, one of the my that submarine I went to was I went to boot camp with one of the people on there, and I also went to a school with another person, there. So that was a little, not a little, probably maybe a little weird at first, but it really didn't stay weird. But it was neat. Now, in fact, I keep running into people here and there,
Wow. So
newbies, junior enlisted.
so as a junior officer in the Navy, what do you think kind of helped you be successful? So if today you had to talk back now to the former you when you were an ensign or JG, like what advice would you have for a JO just getting started as an officer?
I would say biggest thing is you got to learn how to take care of your people, and you're going to also, but you got to be a little forgiving too, because sometimes you'll have the best intentions and you will try to do the right thing and it just doesn't go well, and you have to accept that and move on. Realize you're going to make some mistakes in that area, but I will tell you, if people know you will generally care for them and generally look to take care of them in their best interests, it'll come back to you tenfold. How not that you do it for that reason, but it comes back tenfold. It always has. I've never regretted doing that. Yeah, are you going to find a couple of people here and there that might try to take advantage? Yes, so that's going to happen. But if you're to take the whole, I've probably gained more than I've given. At least I feel that way.
Wow, that is very good. I think that's really the essence of leadership, right? Taking care of your people first and foremost. Right? Like in the Navy, we say, right, mission first, people always. And so, in total, how many years of service did you have before you retire?
Had what would be known as just under 22 qualifying years.
Wow, that is a lot. And you went from seaman or fireman all the way up to commander, which is being a senior officer in the U.S. Navy. I believe that it's less than 2% of people who join the Navy end up as commander and above. How was that for you going from lieutenant commander to selection to commander?
Well, for me, it was kind of to me, it was almost a natural transition, just because the simple fact was it was to me it was just time. It was almost like, okay, here we go, and I was ready to go with that. So it seemed like it took forever being a select.
Yes.
Waiting that amount of time. But for me, the transition was just something I welcomed just from the start. I know sometimes that at times can be rough, because you do have to look at things from a different mindset
Mhm.
a lot of times in different positions. But I've had a lot of experience of that in my civilian career, because there's 3 different positions I can fill with the qualifications I have. One, you're overall in charge, and then there's another one where you're more of an advisor, and you have to
Mhm.
shift that mindset. And it's not always easy, because you get used to doing certain things. But before, as the commander, it was really, for me, if you really want to boil it down, it was just taking things. Okay, I've done leadership at this level. Now it's time to do it on a bigger platform.
Wow. And something about being in charge, especially in the Navy, right? There is no job more rewarding, challenging, or higher than being a commanding officer. And you had the opportunity to do it twice. So, how was it for you to transition from being like a department head to commanding officer?
Well, for me in particular, I found it to be a better fit. I know, and in fact, sometimes later on in the career, when I would do jobs that wasn't the wasn't the CO, I had to almost force myself to stay in my lane and do my job. I just got so used to being able to, just pick it up. It's really not. being in charge that I think about is more like, okay, I see something is necessary and somebody's got to run it, and it's time to go. So actually, it was a better fit for me than it was as a. No, I did well as a department head and things like that, but it just seemed a more natural fit. I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, but that's how it felt to me.
Well, that is great. And also, once you joined the reserve, right? I'm assuming you had a full-time civilian job and doing the reserve. And so many people in the Navy Reserve, they also go to school, they have family, kids, and so forth. How was it like life-work balance or life-work integration?
I can't say that I always did the greatest job of life work balance. In fact, it did cause stresses and strains at times. But what I would say is that you're going to have to, each season in life is going to be a little bit different, and you're going to have to correct. So a lot of times certain things that are important still do go by the wayside, and it does cause some conflict here and there, but by and large, if you're doing the right things, and your family, your unit, whoever will give you a little bit of leeway when things are a little bit out of balance. So it's very easy to let it slip, and I have done it many times.
Yes, indeed. So before we get into my 7 favorite question, the last question I have for you: what would you advise a new commanding officer select? What is there to look out for? Or what tips would you have?
Right. So the biggest things is gather as much insight from the outgoing as possible, and then meet with your gaining command leadership, because a lot of them, depending on their experience, they may have very little experience dealing with reserves. So, and some of them, unfortunately, have had negative experience. Now, some have had positive experience. But the bottom line is, you got to understand what the expectations are and what they expect you to do. And now, we'll say at the gaining command, I do what I call, like, I divide the time into thirds. So if I get a 30-minute meeting with them, or I'm going to make sure I only use 10 minutes of me talking, because they're going to have lots of questions that are going to take the other time. So you may even need to spend an hour or two to get it concise, to,
Yes.
get that done properly. And then you have to meet with the Navy Operational Support Center commanding officer, because unfortunately with the Navy Reserve, their goals aren't aligned with the unit mission. They are there for what the reserve was built for to begin with, and that's more of a strategic, being able to mobilize role. So that is always going to be a source of conflict, and the earlier you can get out ahead of it, and earlier you can work with that NACO to help understand what you have to do as a mission for your unit, and yet do all the things that keep your unit readiness numbers where they need to be.
Yes.
And then get to know everybody in the unit as quick as you can, because it's hard to advise somebody, or to try to give them the right development opportunities. You don't know what they're trying to do, and it's easy to fall in the trap. Well, I did these things, and this is my path. Well, two things wrong with that. One is that's a different person you're dealing with, and two is it's a different time and place. So what may
Yes.
have been great to do 20 years ago might be a bad idea now. Maybe it's a dying field or whatever. So
Hmm.
takes a lot to do that. So you have to learn to do that, and then also you have to learn to advise, have other people help you advise them. Like for
Yes.
me, if they're going to ask me how to do IT stuff and how to do an IT career, I'm like, I'm going to have to send you, or got a couple other friends of mine in the reserve as well who have done that in their civilian careers. So that's who I call. I'm like, hey, can you talk to
Yes.
this young lady here who is interested in IT or whatever it is. It's you're not going to have all the answers, and sometimes you have to find other people to help them on their journey.
No, that is so key. I've had a lot of great commanding officers throughout my career in the Navy, but there are a few of them I feel like, right, I will follow them wherever they lead, because I really felt a real connection. Like they really cared about me, the individual, not
Yeah,
just accomplishing the mission, and not just telling me, oh, I care about all of you guys, and then do something that clearly shows that they don't care about you. But was few people who really follow through, and they really care about your
Yes.
being before, they already put people first before the mission. I'm like, when I grow up, I want to be just like them, and I think that's really what the essence of leadership is all about. All right, so my 7 favorite question. Number 1, what is the greatest lesson you have learned?
Treat people as individuals. A lot of people were taught what was called the golden rule: treat others like you'd like to be treated. Well, that doesn't always work. Everybody is different. People are going to respond to different things. Different things are going to be important than it is to me and you or whoever. It's just everybody is different in that respect. And if you don't see them as individuals, you will miss many opportunities to help. It just you can't put people in cookie cutters. Every person has unique hopes, desires, all that stuff, and that's why, like, you take a football team or whatever. Not everybody looks the same, and they're not gonna, because you don't want the same. You need a different skill set for your offensive lineman than you do for a defensive back,
Sure.
or something like that. So we're all so different for a reason, because a lot of times we can use that to play to to really multiply. We're using each other's strengths and then help compensate for each other's blind spots.
Wow. So, as a commander in the Navy Reserve and twice selected to be commanding officer, what do you think was the secret of your success?
Well, trying to think, probably the biggest thing I can tell you with I don't have, like, I wouldn't say call it anyone's secret, but you're going to have a lot of naysayers no matter what you do. There's always going to be people saying you can't do this, or oh, the guy before you failed, so you're going to fail, and blah and blah and blah. So I've learned to use those kind of things as a motivation instead of a hindrance. That's probably
Yes.
the biggest one I could give you for
Yes.
that.
Wow, that is very, very good, because not everybody has your best interest in mind too. I think, was it Nelson Mandela who said it's impossible until it is done, and
Mhm.
yeah. So what is the greatest leadership advice you have ever received, you think?
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you
Yes.
care.
Yes, yes, yes. I've heard my mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, say that, but I believe it originally came from. I've heard Oprah say that too. But
Yes.
anyway, but it is true. Really caring about people, really caring about people makes a big difference. Like, I don't know if you've heard, there was a CEO who fired like 900 people, I think, on a Zoom call, like a 3-minute Zoom call. It was very popular online, like last week or the week before. It's like, yes, I do care about you guys, but oh, by the way, you are fired. Don't you come back to work? It's like, well, I don't really think you do. But leadership, I guess, is not exactly like a science, but it's maybe it's a mixture of science and art. Just being able to deal with people and influence them to do the
Yeah.
right thing in their personal development and for the organization. So how would you describe being a leader, but really dealing with people?
Describe that. Well, to me, I consider it an investment. I mean,
Mm,
when you deal with people, you really need to invest. It sounds crazy because everybody thinks of that like financial or whatever invest, but you're
yes.
investing in the person. You invest in the person. It really does. And if you want to put in financial terms, you get great return on your investment. You really do.
That is
Just that
that is
simple.
so true. Yeah, and it takes time too, right, to build a relationship and to gain trust and
It
confidence.
does. It really does.
Yeah,
It
because
does.
I feel like when I first joined the Navy, some of the commanding officer I had, like, almost 17 years ago, it was almost like, I am the skipper, I am in charge, you do it because I said so. But then I saw some other commanding officer, they weren't loud, they weren't shouting or anything, but they had that leadership presence. It's like, I care about you, and it's almost like they motivate you to do the right thing without shouting, without telling you, I am the boss. But everybody knows he or she is the boss, but they didn't have to say it. And I feel like that is so powerful.
It is, and those people you can see, you can tell right away. It's
Yes.
I still remember when I was working at McDonald's in high school, and then this lady regional manager came in. She didn't say a whole lot, but I knew she was in charge, no doubt. I mean, she didn't have to say anything.
That is so awesome when that happens. So my second question, what are you learning now?
Right now, I'm working on. So I came through a very busy season in life. So right now, I'm working on reducing bodily inflammation via a diet specifically tailored to the individual.
Hmm.
And the gist of that is what you'll do is that a lot of people are familiar with foods that would make you allergic, have
Yes.
like a, immediate bad reaction. But nowadays there's the technology to test for things that cause an irritant to your body, but it's not something you may notice right away or even notice at all. Or you may have a condition, you have no idea why it's happening, you're itchy or whatever it is all the time. So what you do is they can test to see what your body's reactive to as well. And so I've done that recently, and working on changing the diet, having to give up some favorite foods. Like, for example, I have to give up cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving because cranberry I react to. So it's one of those
Wow.
type of things there. So it's just a big, I know it sounds off topic for leadership, but in my case, I've just joined a new operating crew, and a lot of people are
Yes.
in my line of work. Do not Health is not prioritized, and there's a lot of people operating crew that are starting to prioritize their health.
Yes.
So
No,
it's good to do that along with them.
absolutely. Actually, I think one of the leadership principles, right, you have to take care of your body, your health, emotional health included, right?
Yes,
Uh,
yes,
like
absolutely.
I've always said, no, if it wasn't for the Navy, I would have never been fit, right? I remember the first time I had to run a mile and a half. I've never run a mile and a half in my life. I thought I was going to die. I'm like, what in the world? But yeah, I mean, I just kept practicing, and then you kind of have to, right? And
Yes,
yeah, it looks like there is a connection between spirit, mind, and body. If you don't have a good body, and this is the only body you've got, right? I remember at one point I was having some issues with my back, like nothing else mattered, right? It's like if you have any issue with your body, it's like, this is the most
yes,
important thing in life, and it really is, right? And I know many people think about, what is urgent, and they always take off what's urgent, but they forget about what is important, but maybe not urgent, but important,
right,
nonetheless. So your health is
absolutely.
definitely extremely
Yeah.
important. Yeah, you only get one life to live, right? So, what is the greatest investment you have made in yourself? I know you've invested a lot in other people and people who served under you.
For me, it's been wellness and health. I took leadership classes when it was doing a MBA at the Citadel while I was teaching Navy Nuke School, and had a Marine 2-star come in. And his one advice too is like, you need to take care of your health. He goes, if you want to have a long career, no matter what it is, what you're doing, he goes, most people whose careers go shorter, a lot of people think, okay, athletic career, yeah, if you don't take care of yourself, but it works for all careers.
Yes.
So, that really did stick with me, and, to take care of that. Whereas in my early life, it was all due to athletic stuff to perform better. But now it's to, to do that. So I can't do any of the other things if that fails.
That is so true. And in the military, I know I've never ever, I don't know if you have, but I've never ever seen a senior Marine officer obese or fat ever. Now, for the Navy, that's something else. The Army,
Yes,
not
yes,
so sure. But taking care of your physical health is so
yes.
important and critical, because
Hmm.
really, without it, you don't have anything, right?
Right, right. You really don't, because then it becomes a sole focus. You can't focus on anything else. Kind of
That
like
is
that
true.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You
Mm.
need to be healthy to worry about any of the other stuff as you go up the little pyramid that's drawn.
Yes, that is so true. So question number three, how has failure shaped your life?
Develop the ability to learn each lesson from each failure. Because the thing about it is, it's trying to tell you something. Whether you believe in spiritual deity or not, it is happening and is trying to tell you, you need to change your approach. Do I need to do soul searching? Do I need to change life direction? Do I have vulnerabilities on what I'm doing and techniques like in athletics? A lot of times I learn my vulnerabilities. Like
Yes.
hitting baseball in batting practice, you may not realize you have a hitch in your swing until somebody throws the ball really hard and you don't catch up to it. You have to change your approach. Now it's a simple example, but the idea is that you have to learn to take the lessons for those, as painful as they are sometimes.
Yes, that is so true. Are you open to share about what you believe is like your greatest failure so far? Because one thing I have noticed is most people they only look at the good, positive things, right? Oh, this person is so talented. They are. It's almost like everything they touch turns into gold. But the reality is, for you to be successful, you have to go through a lot of failures.
Right. And one of my biggest failures is trying is I failed in taking care of my people, and it wasn't due to lack of effort. In fact, if anything, I tried a little too hard and pushed in the wrong direction. What it was, I was trying to get it was a security unit, and I was trying to get them into some training, and I felt the command in charge of that training was giving me the runaround, so I pushed a little too hard, and I think I angered them, so they made it their mission to not let them get that training. So
Mm.
that was awfully embarrassing, and I had to tell them, "Hey, you're not going to this school because I screwed up."
Yes, yes. Really, the way you learn to treat people, all people. Like I said, it's not really a science, but it's more like an art. But I think people eventually figure out that you really care. But yes, thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah.
question number four: who do you know whom we should know? Who are some of your mentors or thought leaders you are
Okay.
following now?
Well, especially in this case, it was the same unit actually as he was my SEL, and he's also retired law enforcement. His name is George Shea. Now spelled it's French last name, so spelled Chaix. But I tell you what, given that around the country, there's been a lot of animosity to how like law enforcement has been carried out. Well, this guy is the example of how you do it right.
Wow.
Big example how you do it right. For example, they did the USS New Orleans commissioning. This is in 2007. It was in downtown New Orleans near the aquarium, and there was a lot, a lot going on, of course, And anyway, we basically were plain clothes with NCIS outer, and then you had like a Navy security that was fenced in by the ship.
Hmm.
And so anyway, the day of the commission, of course, you're always going to have some protesters, and we had some, and he like diffused the situation before it could even become a situation.
Wow.
So he literally just comes up and his plain clothes and just introduces himself, and he just simply goes, "If y'all gonna play nice, we're gonna play nice." He goes, and
Wow.
just from there, there was no issues. It was that simple. Like just to get out ahead of that,
Yes.
and stuff like that. So, and he's done many other examples of that type of stuff. So it's almost like he's got a gift to like you know get rid of a problem before it even happens. It was
Wow. That is
pretty
really
good.
amazing. Because I really
Yeah.
believe like the number one characteristic for a good leader is leading by example. People won't always do what you say, but they will always do what you do and follow you. Actually, it works with children also. I remember my father
Yes.
of two girls, and if I don't do what I'm saying, then no, they will not even listen. But they always watch their parents, at least in my experience. So if you could choose three people to have dinner with, who would you choose and why? They don't have to be alive. They could be historical figures as well.
Yeah, well, I do have that. The first one is a lesser known, Mac Robinson. That was actually the nickname. It was actually Matthew Mackenzie Robinson, and his younger brother was the famous one. That was Jackie Robinson,
Oh, singer.
the baseball player. Well, also he was on the same track team with Jesse Owens in the 1936 Berlin Olympics.
Wow.
In fact, if it weren't for Jesse Owens, he would have been the world record holder in the 200 meters. They both broke the old world record. He got the silver, and Jesse Owens got the gold.
Wow.
So, and on top of that, he lived a longer lifespan. He lived to be 85 years old, whereas Jackie Robinson he was in his early 50s when he had passed along. So really, it's almost me cheating on this little.
That's good.
You say three people. Well, now I'm using one, and I get three out of that particular person. That he's also had a longer lifespan. He lived from I believe it's like 1914 to like 2000. So he has seen lots of a change. So so then it would be things like asking, okay, how far have we come, and then have you seen all this? Now what do we still need to do? And I think he would have a lot of insight into that, because he has lived, a span of that. And, the Berlin Olympics, that was very controversial. Yes. And we'll put this way, Hitler was none pleased that
yes.
all that happened. So in any case, that's how I get there. Now I do have two others, Roger Staubach, who was Navy as well. So really for him is three reasons. He had to have leadership success over a long time and over wildly different areas. So Vietnam War, so he's in that. Then goes to the NFL and did very well there. And then on top of that, until recently, he was the basically richest athlete ever, and he made most of his money after his football career. Yeah, he was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $600 million now. I think LeBron James is eclipsed that now, but you know what I mean. So he did all this stuff for all these years. So he's got to have some good leadership to do all that.
Nice.
So very, very big one there. And then I got one other. It'd be Vice Admiral Braun, retired. She was the first female chief of the Navy Reserve. And on top of that, even when she was Captain Braun, I never got the opportunity to meet her, but even when she was Captain Braun, I heard great things about her. Everybody wanted to work for her. They said she was a great leader, great one to work with. That, and also she had to navigate some stuff with leadership, very tough. When I first got that last job in the reserve teaching the leadership courses, the gaining command for that was being dismantled, dissolved all the way. It was Center for Personal and Professional Development. And they were like, okay, we're going to reduce your billet down to a year, and we may be done with this. And she's like, no, we are not done with it. Leadership is one of my top 5 priorities. So she navigated to where they got put into leadership and ethics under the Navy War College in Rhode Island to continue that leadership program. So, with a lot of financial pressures to chop leadership training, she fought against it and won.
Awesome. Wow, yeah, really a living legend for sure. It's really quite amazing. I really feel like the Navy really gives a lot of chances to. Let me just put it this way: it's much more diversified than most of the workforce I have ever seen. Wow, that is quite amazing. So for question number 5, what have you read that we should read? What are some of the best books you've read recently?
Yeah, well, I would call the one is How Full Is Your Bucket? I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was by Tom Rath and Donald Clifton. And it's basically all about trust and establishing trust. And another thing is they actually quantified some stuff, like for as you need to have, like they said, you need to have a minimum of 5 positive interactions for every one that's either neutral or negative. Each person to have a good trusting relationship. So they also gave it, an anecdote about Vietnam War. There was, some people got captured and, became prisoners of war. And the trust was so low there was a colonel who told a junior enlisted person to, hey, don't eat that food. You're going to get sick. And the trust was so low. He's like, well, we're POWs now. You're not in charge here anymore. And unfortunately, the guy did get dysentery and die. And, they're, seeing how, unfortunate is that. Whereas if you had trust, that could have been prevented, that type of thing. Even the second author, Donald Clifton, he wrote this as he knew he was dying. So this was like, it was important to get that work out as, so he, before he passed on.
Wow. So, thank you so much for sharing. And by the way, I am adding the link on Amazon to this book. This way, people could purchase it. A lot of people who do follow me read quite a bit. Thank you. And my next question then is number 6. What have you done that we should do? What is one action you have taken that has positively impacted your life?
Yeah, well, it goes back to what I talked about a little bit earlier about learning to utilize the naysayers as a source of inspiration instead of a hindrance. That I think that is because you're always going to have that. There's always going to be somebody who will tell you can't. I mean, just look at some of the greatest NFL football players. They got people every day on TV talk shows telling them they're not going to do this and they're going to get beat and blah and blah and blah.
Yes.
A lot of them have learned to do the same thing. So that would be the one I would say right there. Don't let you figure out if you can't do it or not. Don't let someone else tell you can't do it or not.
That is so true. I think it's a great secret for success around the board for sure. So if you only had one and only one day to live, what would you have liked your final contribution to be?
Well, let as many people know that they're loved and what they did mattered, and be making as many phone calls as possible to let them know that. I mean, that's really at that point I'd call till it was over.
Wow.
Probably wouldn't even bother sleeping.
Yes, I think that is so important. So the very final question, how can we add value back to you? How can we make a difference?
Yeah, pay it forward. That's the thing. A lot of people have asked me, if I'll help them out, they're like, well, how can I repay? I said, well, you help the next person that needs it. There's going to be some person that may remind you of you or somebody, or your sister, or whoever it could be, and go ahead and help them out. Don't worry about me. Help somebody else.
Well, you've heard it from the commander. Thank you so much, Commander Jim Willsey. Really appreciate your time on the show. I think it's very inspirational. And thank you so much. So this was Busy from Silicon Valley. Until next time. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership and Success Podcast with your host, Coach BZ. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our channels and come back for more wisdom nuggets on how you may develop into a better leader and achieve greater levels of success. Leadership is the most critical skill. The world will always need leaders to lead others, deploy the next disruptive technology, or execute a business strategy. You may as well decide on counting yourself among the 21st century leaders. See you right here next time on the Leadership and Success Podcast with Coach BZ.